Hey, I'm on the road to recovery, really on the road to recovery. Returning from Florida where I met an amazing guy, David Goloski from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. A guy that's really changing the entire dynamics of alumni services from treatment. That continuum of care is so important. It's not just detox and treatment, it's that continuum of care. Recovery support services, and David's doing it through an alumni program at Bang Treatment Center. Check this out.
So my addiction, it began probably from a pretty young age. I mean, I remember taking my first drink when I was 12 years old, and I drank with two of my best friends at the time. We were in 7th grade. We stayed up late, waited for his mother to go to bed, and we bought half a water bottle full of Bacardi 151 from his 16-year-old brother. And we passed it around, we took shots, you know, around in a circle, and one of my friends passed out immediately. Another one got so intoxicated that he defecated himself. And I stayed up, finished that water bottle, and went over to his brother's room and continued to drink with a bunch of the older kids. I know that my father was an alcoholic all throughout growing up. I really never saw a sober day out of him, except for a 3-week period in between being hospitalized and in a coma, and you know, a 3-week period after that until he drank again and eventually died a year and a half later. And the kids that grew up like directly in my neighborhood were all 2 to 3 or 4 years older than me. And you know, I would go to a couple parties with them here or there, and I could drink the way that they drank. And the things that they were experimenting with in their senior year of high school or their first year of college, I was doing as a freshman or a sophomore in high school. And got the exposure to, you know, selling marijuana here and there, which, you know, escalated into, you know, selling other drugs and whatever the case may be. And, you know, through those years, I had 2 underages, I got a DUI, and I realized, I was conscious enough to realize that I couldn't drink and not drive, because somehow I would always end up in there, and I knew that that was pretty serious, but I never thought, well, I just can't drink. So what I said to myself was, well, you know, these pills that I'm selling, you may or may not have heard of them, Oxycontin, I'll just do those on the weekends. And I'm only going to do them on the weekends because I know the way people get on them, and that lasted for a weekend. And less than 6 months later, you know, I'm sticking a needle in my arm and doing whatever I have to do to get the next one. And I went to a detox and a short residential program in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. From there, they recommended that I receive extended care, and I was this close to going to the Salvation Army program in Scranton, Pennsylvania in the dead of winter. Well, in November, but it was the coldest day of the year that year. And then, you know, the second in command from that treatment center came down and saw me and said, Dave, how would you feel about going to Florida? And they were able to pull some strings and get me down to a facility that was all men's down here. I completed that and had about 55 days of sobriety after that, and went to a sober living, and I got a sponsor who was you know, very adamant and very passionate about what he was talking about and educated in what he was talking about, and I kind of ran with it from there. I mean, I met my first sponsor who really implemented the principles of recovery and the 12 steps into me in Pennsylvania. And, you know, after going through the steps and developing a friendly relationship with him, and then working for him, and then him being my sponsor too, it was just too many masks to wear with him, you know, and I decided to go a different direction, and I've been with this guy pretty much ever since. So it says, like, you know, in the 12th step, we try to carry this message to the addict or the alcoholic who still suffers, and practice these principles in all of our affairs. And when I got faced with things that I actually had to show up in life for, and being able to demonstrate the things that recovery had taught me, that's kind of where recovery really, really showed up for me. How do I carry recovery? Being faithful to my significant other, you know, practicing ethical and doing things the right way in all of my business affairs. You know, going above and beyond when I don't feel like answering that phone and somebody calls, you know, when I'd rather sit at home or watch a movie and isolate. You know, being there for the people around me, being able to show up for the ones that I love and the ones that love me, you know, outweighs everything else. Yeah, my daughter was born October 14th, 2015. When you have to show up for somebody else's life that literally has no ability to care for themselves or in any way, shape, or form, you know, that's where you lose another layer of selfishness, where I look at this little girl and she really can't do anything without me. When you hold a child for the first time, you realize that you are responsible for somebody else and somebody else is dependent upon you. Most important things in my life, first and foremost, is God, due to the fact that He's afforded me every other thing in my life. And without Him being the centerpiece and who I serve on a daily basis, you know, I wouldn't have any of these other things. And then I probably take a look at, you know, 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, the rooms, the fellowship around me, because also without them, you know, I wouldn't be able to show up as a father, as a boyfriend, as an employee, as a mentor to the alumni clients here at Banyan or anything like that, man. And then I look at my family, you know. I want to stay sober, I want to grow spiritually, and I want to be there for my family in whatever way, shape, or form that may be, mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually. Man, I am the root and cause of all of my problems. It's my perspective on those things, or the positions that I made or the decisions I made in the past that later placed me in a position to be upset, and instead of, you know, having displaced anger, and it's like holding on to the hot coal, attempting to throw it at somebody else, but you're the only one who really gets burned.
I'm so glad I was able to share David's story with you, one of my good friends, doing so much to help people find their paths and their journeys to recovery. We're back on the road to recovery. I'll see you on the next episode. I'm Michael De Leon.